Hey guys, my name is Angel Pineda, reporter for UTA Radio News. Recently, I had the absolute privilege to interview Leigh Whannell, director of the upcoming sci-fi thriller Upgrade. Whannell is known for co-creating the Saw franchise as well as the Insidious franchise. Upgrade releases in theaters on June 1st, 2018. What you're about to see is a condensed version of the interview that took place at Alamo Drafthouse. Thank you and enjoy. What was your motivation for creating a film within the sci-fi genre compared to doing previous work in horror?
I don't know that I was specifically motivated to do a film in that genre. Usually a story idea will pop into my head and it tells you what genre it's in, you know. I usually don't start with a genre like, I really want to do a comedy. Now let's think, what's a good comedy? To me, that's putting the cart before the horse. Like, you always start with the idea first, and the idea could be anything. I mean, years ago, I had an idea for a kids' movie, and I wrote it. It's still my great white whale that I haven't managed to get made yet. One day, I'm going to make this movie. But if an idea for a musical romantic comedy was to pop into my head right now, I would just follow it down that road, you know?
I noticed there was a lot of the color red in the film, from the red muscle car to even the action sequences. Was that intentional?
Yeah, I mean, well...
Yeah,
it's got a red color. A fun part of making a film is when you're designing it, you know, in pre-production. Production, when you're shooting, is hell on earth. Basically, you are living that scene in Raiders of the Lost Ark where he's running with a boulder. That's what shooting a movie is like. But pre-production is fun because you're planning everything, you know. And so I had a lot of conversations with the cinematographer Stefan, and we would watch movies that we loved, and really it's just an excuse to watch movies, but you pretend that you're working. that was funny. I was like, I really want to go for that Seven vibe where it's grimy but painterly like a Renaissance painting. We should watch Seven. And like 2 hours later, the producer's like, what are you guys doing in there? Working. But you know, we did that. We watched all these movies and we talked a lot about color, and I didn't want to make a movie that had one color palette. I think there was something that happened in sci-fi movies after The Matrix. Remember there was that period where everybody went for that blue-green tint? Yeah. It was this post-Matrix blue-green, and I was like, no blue-green! And we watched a lot of movies that had more color in them, you know, like Only God Forgives, and Drive is a good one, and just... the only two films I can think of are both by the same director, but we would look at these movies, and so we sort of decided that each scene would have its own palette. Somehow it would be unified, but when we're in this world, it's this palette, and then when we go to Cirque's house and he lives in this trashy house in this bad part of town, it's going to be really orange and burnt and grimy. And I think red is traditionally the color of like blood, you know, it means death. You know, it's like Dario Argento, you go for that. So I like busting out that really harsh red when things are really bad, when things are going bad. Yeah.
Did the film have any influences from a certain piece of technology from today, or was it something that you created straight from your mind?
Well, what was interesting was when I wrote the film, it was stuff that I was kind of making up based on projections of where the world was heading. And then in the subsequent years, as we struggled to get the film made and put the money together, it's amazing how quickly years can go by in the life of a film. The world caught up to the movie. You know, when I wrote the film, the idea of a voice, you know, asking you these questions was science fiction. Now I have Siri and, you know, I have Alexa in my house. It's been really interesting to watch some of the concepts in the movie just become everyday reality. Yeah. Like, my daughter thinks it's perfectly normal to walk in and be like, Alexa, play the Frozen soundtrack. And I'm just like, you just told a robot, you know, an artificial intelligence to play your favorite song, and it replied to you, like, you know, that it's proof of how quickly we get used to things. Human beings, we very quickly become accustomed to things, and then very quickly after that start taking it for granted. You know, not too long ago, people were like, "Wow, the internet! You know, in just 2 hours, I can download a picture of Terry Hatcher without her clothes on." And within a very short amount of time, people are like on a plane, like, "This plane sucks." Like we go from acceptance to taking it for granted to hatred really quickly. So that'll happen with any form of new technology, I think.